Have you ever felt that your life carries a weight, a purpose, that sets you apart, even if you can't fully explain it? Being chosen by God isn't about being better than others. It's about being set aside for something greater than yourself. Often, the signs of being chosen aren't glamorous or easy. In fact, they are usually marked by struggle, sacrifice, and divine encounters that shape your character. Let's walk through 7 powerful signs that may indicate you are among those God has handpicked for a unique purpose. A deep sense of purpose that never fades. 1. Of the most telling signs that you are chosen by God is an enduring inner calling, a sense of purpose that persists through every season of life. Even when you face failure, rejection, or feel misunderstood, this internal compass keeps pointing you in the same direction. You may not always know the next step, but you know you're meant for more. This sense of purpose isn't merely ambition or desire for recognition. It's a sacred fire in your soul that doesn't die out, even when ignored or discouraged by others. Think about the story of Joseph in the book of Genesis. As a young man, Joseph had prophetic dreams that revealed a great destiny, yet he was betrayed by his brothers, sold into slavery, and unjustly imprisoned. Despite the circumstances, his vision never left him. Eventually, those very dreams came to pass, positioning him to save a nation during famine. Genesis 50:20. God once spoke these powerful words through the prophet Jeremiah. "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart." Jeremiah 1:5. If you've ever felt like your life was marked, even before you knew why, you're likely walking in that same kind of divine appointment. Intense spiritual battles. Being chosen doesn't mean an easy life. In fact, it often means the opposite. You may experience seasons of deep struggle, betrayal, or hardship that feel almost targeted, as though unseen forces are working to wear you down. That's because the enemy doesn't waste time on people without purpose. The more significant your calling, the more severe the spiritual resistance. Consider Job, a man described as blameless and upright, who endured unspeakable suffering. He lost his wealth, children, and health in a short span of time. And yet, behind the scenes, his trials were allowed not to destroy him, but to test and refine his faith. In the end, God restored Job and blessed him even more than before. Job 1-2. Spiritual warfare is a sign of spiritual value. The enemy targets what threatens him. So if your life seems to attract unexplainable attacks, it's not a sign of weakness, but of your potential to make an impact in the kingdom. Drawn to righteousness, even when it's hard, another indicator that you are chosen by God is the inability to remain comfortable in sin or compromise. While others may indulge in things that displease God without conviction, you feel a weight in your spirit when you drift from Him. You may stumble, but you can't stay down. Something within you aches to return to God's presence and truth. David, the shepherd boy who became king, is a powerful example. Despite his serious sins, including adultery and murder, he remained deeply sensitive to God's heart. His repentance was real, and his love for God never faded. That's why God referred to him as a man after my own heart. Acts 13:22. When you are chosen, righteousness becomes less about rules and more about relationship. You're not perfect, but you hunger for purity because you value your connection with God more than temporary pleasure. It's this conviction that continually pulls you back into alignment with your calling. Supernatural provision chosen individuals often find that doors open for them in ways that defy logic. Whether it's a job, opportunity, connection, or protection, things seem to fall into place right when they're needed, not always how you expected, but always on time. This isn't coincidence. It's divine orchestration. Look at Elijah. During a time of drought, God instructed him to hide by a brook, and ravens brought him food every day. 1 Kings 17. Or consider Joseph once again. His betrayal by his brothers seemed like the end, but it was the exact path that led him to Pharaoh's court. where he would rise to power and save many lives. God's provision isn't always material. Sometimes it's insight, divine protection, or favor in difficult situations. When you are chosen, your path may not always make sense, but God ensures that your needs are met as you follow His direction. Carrying the burdens of others, chosen people often feel a spiritual weight, not just for their own lives, but for the well-being of others. You may find yourself deeply moved by injustice, suffering, or brokenness in your family, community, or even globally. This isn't accidental, it's an assignment. Nehemiah is a beautiful example. Though he lived comfortably as a cupbearer in a royal palace, his heart broke when he heard about the ruined state of Jerusalem. He fasted, prayed, and eventually led the effort to rebuild the city's walls. Nehemiah 1:4. This was not a political project. It was a divine mission birthed from holy compassion. Isaiah 58:12 refers to such people as repairers of the breach. When you are chosen, God gives you the heart to feel what others ignore. Your burden is your blueprint. It points you to where He's calling you to serve and restore. Divine separation from certain people. Another often painful, but telling sign of being chosen is divine separation. Sometimes relationships end abruptly. Doors close or opportunities dissolve without clear reason. While this can be heartbreaking, it may actually be God's protection. Not everyone can go where you're going. Moses grew up in Pharaoh's palace, raised in royalty, but his calling wasn't to rule Egypt from within. His destiny required separation, and it came through a difficult moment where he fled the palace, after defending a Hebrew slave. In the wilderness, God began preparing him for a much greater mission, to lead His people out of bondage. Exodus 2:3. When you are chosen, rejection can be redirection. God removes people or positions that would sabotage your mission. It's not punishment, it's pruning. Trust that His no often precedes a better yes. 7. Attacked but never defeated. Lastly, chosen individuals have a spiritual resilience that doesn't make sense to the world. You've faced storms, trials, maybe even trauma, but you're still standing. Not because you're lucky, but because you're graced. The Apostle Paul endured persecution, imprisonment, shipwrecks, and near-death experiences.
Yet none of it stopped his mission. In fact, Paul wrote, "We are hard-pressed on every side, but not crushed, perplexed, but not in despair, persecuted, but not abandoned." 2 Corinthians 4:8-9. His endurance was evidence of his calling. If
you've been through seasons that should have broken you but didn't, it's a sign. There's a strength inside you that is not your own. That's the power of God working in someone He has chosen. Final encouragement: you were not chosen for comfort. You were chosen for impact. The battles you face are not random. They're training for the mission ahead. The tears you've cried are watering the seeds of your destiny. The loneliness you've endured is setting the stage for divine alignment. God is not finished with you. He's only just beginning. If your life has been marked by purpose, battle, righteousness, provision, compassion, separation, and survival, it's because you are set apart. And what God sets apart, He also equips. You are chosen not for ease, but for impact. Your trials are training, your burdens are assignments, and your survival is proof. God isn't finished with you yet.